So Liverpool held to a hugely frustrating 0-0 draw by Manchester United here at Anfield. There was so much confidence coming into this game from the Liverpool side of things. Obviously their form had been brilliant recently coming into this, and they'd beaten Manchester United 7-0 here last time, and United themselves have been really struggling of late, dumped out of Europe in midweek. Confidence as low as you can imagine. They were actually sat 8th in the table coming into the start of this game, but it was much more difficult than maybe Liverpool anticipated. A really sticky game, one that United, they came here with a clear game plan, which was to make things difficult as they could for Liverpool, and not to really sort of play the usual football and play to attack. They were just trying to hit on the counter if they could and get the ball forward, but also just defend their own line as much as they could and ensure they came away with a clean sheet. And you've got to say, Erik Ten Hag got things right in terms of that. Liverpool just not good enough to break United down despite all their efforts. And you know, it's not like they didn't have sort of half chances or they weren't, you know, having enough pops at goal. I've got the stats here. It's 34 shots to Manchester United 6, but just 8 of those on target from Liverpool and just 1 on target from Manchester United, which gives you an idea really of how the game went. I think if there's one thing that you could criticise Liverpool for around that, is that yes, they've had a lot of shots there, but in terms of the actual chances they created and the real creativity they showed around the box, you know, they didn't make United uncomfortable enough. Not enough of those shots were taken from truly dangerous positions. They were positions where if they'd have scored, you'd have said it was a wonderful goal or a brilliant finish. There wasn't enough where they were creating sort of tap-ins or really playing through United's shape. And you've got to give United credit for that in terms of how they defended, but also for Liverpool, that's been a bit of a recurring theme in recent weeks, isn't it? I think the attack hasn't really fired, and there's been games where they've come through by scoring worldies or scoring from maybe a couple of chances they've created, and you know, been limping along really in terms of creativity. And finally now, in a game where they didn't want it to happen, it has finally sort of come back to bite them with Manchester United, as I say, defending well, but you know, Liverpool making it far too easy for them and coming away with that 0-0 draw. So really disappointing for Liverpool. As I say, they have ridden the luck in recent weeks, so maybe this is a little bit of a wake-up call and a reminder that they're going to have to find that click in attack. They're going to have to make that work soon, because you know, they're having real troubles with that, and they can't afford that to keep happening, because in games like this it just proves to you that you're not always going to get away with it. So they really do need to find a solution for that, particularly with some more big games coming up this week, as everyone knows. So I'll go through the performances one by one as usual, and I'll start with the goalkeeper, Alisson. I think, as you can tell from those shot statistics, not a particularly busy day for him today at Anfield. Pretty much a spectator for the entire 90 minutes, but he was called upon once, and that's in the second half. Nice bit of football at the Kop end just behind me. McTominay slips Højlund in, and it looks like a great angle for the shot, but as per usual, as you would expect from him, Alisson is straight out, closes the angle and gets a big save in that keeps his clean sheet and ensures Liverpool have a chance to go on and win the game. Not really much other involvement from him apart from sort of using the ball really well with his feet and trying to drag United on, but found it really difficult to do that because United weren't going to try and press high. They weren't going to try and win the ball there. They wanted to keep the shape and keep making it difficult, so not really an opportunity for Alisson to use his big throws on the counter or to really sort of pick out those long passes because United were sat in so deep. But a decent performance from the goalkeeper, you have to say. Next up I go into the defence and Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back, and I thought not his best game for me. I thought pretty poor really. Saw an awful lot of the ball, and he does create 6 chances according to statistics, but I would say they're not great opportunities that he's creating, not those real clear-cut opportunities. That, you know, these are just chances that lead to shots for Liverpool, and I think, you know, his delivery wasn't quite there, his ability to pass through the lines. You know, there were a couple of really nice passes, but too many times where he left it short. I think he ends the game with a 79% accuracy, passing accuracy, which is very, very low for him. He does move into midfield in the end, which has been a break glass option for Liverpool this season, but it didn't quite work. And as I say, those 6 chances created, he only completes 5 out of 13 cross attempts, which again I think shows you Liverpool working it into promising positions, but that final ball just nowhere near good enough. And I think Trent was a big part of that. He really needs to get back in terms of creativity. I think, actually, in fairness to him, I think in this recent period where Liverpool have struggled for creativity, he's actually been the one who's massively stepped up with goals and assists, but today it didn't quite work for him, and the fact that it's not working for quite a few players at the moment meant that Liverpool creatively were really neutered and really struggled. So not a great performance from Trent today. Alongside him in defence, Ibrahima Konate, I thought defensively did really well. 7 recoveries. You know, United didn't really have a sniff throughout the game, and his pace was really good at sort of neutering them in terms of getting counter attacks away, and he was really physical in the challenges. Really, you know, a few times when he wins the ball, gets front footed and gets Liverpool back on the attack. It's just a shame Liverpool couldn't make more of that, but he really good in his defensive work. I think if there's one thing you would criticise, he sees a little bit too much of the ball. and doesn't really maybe do enough with it. But again, that's United's plan clearly, is to put Konate on the ball as much as possible and put pressure on the men either side of him so that he's the one who has the ball, because they know he's not quite a Virgil van Dijk with his passing, even though he hits a few sort of raking passes today that are quite impressive. And they don't want Trent on the ball either, or not in time and space. So Konate sees a lot of the ball and doesn't really make it count, unfortunately. So that's the one thing you would mark against him for today. Alongside him, obviously, the captain Virgil van Dijk, again, similarly really to Konate in terms of his defensive work. You can have a few complaints about what he did there, but again, it's just not, on the ball. Could he have done more? Could he have taken more responsibility from Konate? But again, you really are splitting hairs in terms of criticising your defenders for that. He's very unlucky not to open the scoring, actually, with a header that he gets at the Kop end in the first half, rises up and nods it goalward, and Onana's equal to it and pushes it over the bar. That's arguably Liverpool's best chance of the entire game, really, and if that had gone in, that could have really changed things. But I don't think you can criticise Van Dijk for not finishing that one off. It's a tough opportunity, and he does as much as you can in terms of getting over it and getting the header on target. So as I say, a decent performance from him, and Liverpool get the clean sheet from that. The problems really were further up the pitch, in truth. Now that just leaves one last defender, Kostas Tsimikas. I thought another decent performance from him. I think he's been in decent form recently. He's safe on the ball, some nice little exchanges down the left hand side, some decent corner deliveries, and dealt with Anthony really, really well. I don't think that United had very much attacking threat down that side at all. Really, really struggled, and that was partly because Kostas Tsimikas was really, really good in his defensive work. But again, could he have put a corner in that creates the goal? You don't want to criticise your defenders too much for that. I think he did put in some really dangerous deliveries that probably deserved a little bit more, and I think, as I say, you can only ask that he sticks to his defensive task, and he definitely did that today. So a decent performance from him. So I'm moving to the midfield now, and in the holding role, obviously Endo having to start here with Alexis McAllister out. And I thought, again, another one who I thought performed pretty decently, actually. Wins 8 out of 13 duels, which is the second highest of anyone on the pitch, which again is what you want from a holding midfielder. He was combative in there and did his job in terms of winning possession and recycling it. Passing percentage was 88% as well, so he wasn't giving it away by any means. He was using the ball nicely. He doesn't have that expansive passing range that McAllister has, does he? But he's still firing the ball through the lines and using it nicely and keeping hold of it really well. So I thought a really decent performance from Endo. You could maybe criticise in terms of he isn't quite McAllister on the ball, but that we know that about him as a player, and he did the job that he was there for, which was to keep United from creating attacks and get the ball back to Liverpool and get them back on the front foot, and he 100% did that. So no criticism of him really. Alongside him in midfield, I'll start with Ryan Gravenberch. He was on the left hand side of those 8. I thought he was a bit of a surprise pick, to be honest, ahead of Curtis Jones. I think in those big games, Curtis has typically got the nod, and Gravenberch not looked in great form recently, but I actually thought today was one of his much better performances. He looked hugely improved to me. His passing accuracy was back up to 87%. It's been in the mid-70s recently, which shows things haven't quite been going for him in terms of that, and he creates 2 chances and some really nice dribbles up through the pitch as well. So I actually thought Gravenberch did really, really well today. He's one of Liverpool's sort of more threatening players in terms of breaking lines. It's just a shame he had to go off when he did. He has a slight injury that seemed to be the reason he was forced off. You hope that's nothing serious, because I think this is a big step forward for him today. Been a bit of a dip really in his performances recently, but I thought he was decently impressive today in terms of what he did, and maybe if Liverpool had been able to keep him on the pitch a little longer with his ability to break those lines with his dribbling, maybe they would have finally found the breakthrough. We'll never know on that front. The final midfielder obviously is Dominic Szoboszlai, and I have to say, I think Szoboszlai is in poor form at the moment. Made such a brilliant start to his Liverpool career. Didn't really think he kept that up in this game. Completes none of his 5 crosses he attempts. Creates 0 chances, which are figures he would get nowhere near in the early part of the season. You have to say, it was it's such a big part of what Liverpool did creatively in those opening games, and he's gone really, really quiet on that front. He defends well. I think he wins 3 out of 3 of his duels, and he gets back with his pace, and he makes sure he covers off, and he didn't allow United to get a sniff creatively on their side of things in midfield, but just isn't doing enough creatively going forward himself. And I think you could see that from the fact that Jurgen Klopp sacrifices him late in the game to move Trent into that position. That's not something that the manager would have thought of at any point in the early part of the season, because Szoboszlai was so influential in the creative heartbeat really of the team. So a really poor game from him, and he needs to get back on form. Liverpool's struggles really recently have coincided with his form dipping slightly, and obviously he's getting used to the Premier League. It's a new league, a new team that he's in, and he's not playing terribly, but he really does need to get back to those high levels, because I think that's one of the reasons that Liverpool is struggling a little bit. Now move into the forward line now and start with Mohamed Salah. I thought again, he's probably Liverpool's best attacker, even though he's not quite at his best. He gets 4 out of 4 shots on target there, creates 5 chances, and he was a constant sort of menace to the United back line. But again, it's can he get that goal when Liverpool need it? You expect him to do that because he has done it so many times down the years, and it just proved a little bit frustrating for him today. Couldn't make that happen. I don't think he's helped by the fact that the struggles going on around him creatively in terms of Liverpool's midfield, and also in terms of what they're doing in attack. I don't think his other attackers are completely flying, and that is causing Mohamed Salah problems. So I think not his world-class best performance today, but he also, I wouldn't say, was poor either. He just sort of, some circumstances are conspiring to make it a little bit more difficult for him. Now alongside him, obviously on the other wing, Luis Diaz, I thought a decent performance. Again, he's one who's not been performing at his absolute best recently. Some criticism of him and questions whether he should stay in the team at the moment, but I think he looked a lot better today. I think one of the things he did really well was get the ball up the pitch. United were as soon as the ball sort of entered that attacking third or into the middle part of the pitch, they were all over you trying to press from that deep position. And I think what he did well is he shrugged players off, turned out, and then moved the ball on. And I think he did a lot of that. That actually helped Liverpool get up the pitch. And he creates 5 chances as well, which I think is decent figure. It shows that he was involved. Unlucky not to get a goal actually, with one that breaks to him from a Nunez miscontrol in the second half. So I think this was a move in the right direction, even if it wasn't Diaz at his absolute best. I think you sort of get in there. Hopefully you get Jota back soon as well as a rotational option on that side, and I think that will make things a little bit easier for him. Now I'll finish off with Darwin Nunez. Again, I've spoken about him a lot on this channel. He's such an enigma, isn't he? Really, really difficult to see which way it's going to go from him at Liverpool. And I think, he started the season like a house on fire. Really looked like he was ready to stake a claim and beat Liverpool's number 1 centre forward and the main man going forward. But it's really, really dipped recently, I think. I just think he's struggling to get involved in games. He's not creating enough. He's not making enough chances. He ends up with 1 shot today and it ends up going off target. He's offside in situations where you would say he really shouldn't be. That is one of the more frustrating aspects of his game, actually. He really does need to get back on side. That's something the coaches should be hammering him for, because it's so many times where Liverpool look to get the ball up quickly and he's in an offside position. He's on his heels, he's not ready, and defences are finding it so easy to catch him offside. I think that shows that there is so much work to do on his game at the moment, and he's still really he really needs that to click. Maybe he will get a goal at some point, and that'll really make things easier for him in terms of his confidence. It'll give him a boost to start playing better and get back to that form we saw early in the earlier part of the season. But I think he's struggling a little bit for me at the moment, and there's question marks over whether Gakpo might be the one who maybe comes in and replaces him in that centre forward role. We'll have to see how that plays out. And I would say actually in Nunez's defence and probably in defence of the entire attack actually, is that Liverpool's ability to create chances at the moment isn't fantastic. There's so many times where Nunez, he hits the middle of the box waiting for a chance to when is he going to get a tap in there, or a simple one to head at goal, and the ball doesn't come in, the delivery's not right. I think that's making it really difficult, so he's almost having to create his own chances at times, and that is, when you put that sort of weight on a centre forward, it makes it difficult for him. But of course, I'm not taking any of all of the blame away from him. I do think he has to start getting involved more and play better than he has been doing recently, because he has been in a little dip. Now, just quickly go over the substitutes. Didn't make a massive impact today. I thought we would have maybe liked to have seen Harvey Elliott a little earlier, because I think he is, you saw in the game against Crystal Palace, he gets Liverpool playing, and I think they played more and more football than they did in the entire game really around United's box when Harvey Elliott came on. It's a shame he came on late in the game, and obviously we saw that move again where Joe Gomez goes to right back, but he couldn't sort of recreate that magic in terms of finding the final assist or really unleashing Trent into midfield and it making a massive difference. I don't think any of the subs massively influenced how the game went today, and that'll be a bit of a frustration for Klopp. One thing he will say, of course, is that he'll probably need some players back to do a bit more of that. Obviously Liverpool getting, injuries are piling up at the moment. You hope Gravenberch's nothing serious, but that is, it's a real thing to think about for Liverpool, and something that's sort of weighing them down at the moment is they don't have a lot of rotation options, so that makes it difficult. Now obviously that's gone through the entire starting 11 in terms of how I felt they played, and a little bit on the substitutes as well. And I have to say, yes, it's been a disappointing day for Liverpool, a result that they wouldn't have wanted, because it's not allowed them to go back to the top of the Premier League. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to shrug this off quickly, because they've got so many important games to come. It's West Ham in midweek in the Carabao Cup, and an opportunity to get in the semi-finals of that competition, and then a game against Arsenal here, where it's a game where Liverpool know that if they win that one, they will be top of the Premier League at Christmas. So big opportunities coming up. They can't dwell on this one, as frustrating as it was. They need to get back to playing better as soon as they can, and then they can go into that Christmas period hopefully top of the league and shake that off, and then sort of regroup in this title charge and really put the foot down, because there's an opportunity here with Manchester City really stumbling this season, and Arsenal don't quite know what to make of those. But if they get a blow landed to them in terms of the confidence here, then you could say that Liverpool are really in the driving seat for the title. So as I say, a big week coming up. If you've enjoyed this video, do please like and subscribe, and also actually let me know in the comments what you thought of the performance. Who was your man of the match? Who didn't play well? What does Jurgen Klopp need to do to get Liverpool back on track, not necessarily in terms of results but in terms of performances? Do let me know in the comments what you think about that. And as I say, it's a huge week coming up, so I will see you probably before Wednesday to preview that match, and then on Wednesday from Anfield with my thoughts on that Carabao Cup quarter final. See you then.